Riley. I'm in my last year with the Apparel Merchandising Product Development Program, and I'm working with Ms. Hubert on my thesis, which is Sizing in the Bridal Industry, and it's a study on apparel sizing and how it relates to self-image and potentially relationships with food for the bride. So as a little bit of an introduction, we all know, at least subconsciously, what vanity sizing is, and that's when, by definition, a garment is marked several sizes smaller than it actually is. And this kind of came about especially when companies started coming up with their own sizing charts that allowed for more and more vanity sizing, but there is one aspect of the apparel industry that typically does not follow this standard, and that is the bridal industry. So brides come in and they try on dresses and they think they're like a size 14 and they end up in a size 18 or 20 and they're like, holy crap, like what happened? And so that kind of starts to mess with their head, and then you have the pressures of the media always pushing out and saying like, oh, we're promoting this diet, we're promoting that diet, look at how much weight Kim Kardashian lost, and all this, just kind of promoting this thin ideal over and over and over again, and then the pressures of just getting ready for the wedding and everything about like, oh, it's the big day, it's, you know, supposed to be your happiest day ever, all of that just adds to all these pressures, and a lot of brides end up succumbing to that and wanting to lose a bunch of weight. So in the literature review, there haven't been very many studies specifically on sizing in the bridal industry, but there were two that I found specifically, and I'm gonna cross-reference my results to those to kind of see how they compare. But they found that on average, the bride wants to lose about 16.4 pounds before her wedding. It doesn't matter how much she weighs, what her size is, she wants to lose 16.4 pounds, and in Australia, that number was actually 20 pounds. Over 10% of brides are encouraged to lose weight by their own family members, so that puts in a whole other pressure as well to your families telling you what they want you to look like, and it just is not good for their mentality. So my research questions are going to be broken into two kind of different subgenres. The first one is kind of how they look like shopping for the dress, like how they feel then and then after they buy it or leave the appointment, and then after that, what they decide to do with it. So if they decide they want to lose or gain weight, how they went about that, how those habits lingered, and if any of them were potentially toxic or unhealthy. So as a process, I'm going to create a survey using a Likert type scale to gauge brides' feelings and opinions, send it in a Facebook bridal group, and collect data for about a month. I'm going to present the survey weekly. And then I'm going to analyze the data to create charts, graphs, other visuals to answer questions. I'm estimating that about 75% of brides will have felt inadequate about their body after their appointment, and at least 50 will both have tried to lose weight before their wedding and develop some sort of toxic or unsustainable habit. And that's kind of what I'm looking for and kind of what's going to be going on. So are there any questions?
How much time, this probably differs by every bride, but in general, how much time do they have to lose that 16.4 or 20 pounds?
It really depends. So I work at David's Bridal as a bridal stylist,
Okay.
so that's like one of the reasons why I chose this study. And sometimes I have brides who come in and they're like, hey, my wedding's in 2 months, and other times they're like, oh yeah, I'm looking for a dress like a year out. So it just kind of depends. On Sunday I did have a bride who bought a dress that was, I offered to order it in for her in her actual size, but she bought it in a size smaller off the rack, and she was like, I'm gonna get this and it's gonna motivate me to lose the weight. She returned it the next day. So
The next day?
yeah. She, I guess,
Lost that
decided.
motivation.
Yeah, well, her wedding was also Christmas Eve, so she was
That
like,
is so fun. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
yeah. I was not surprised when I saw that she returned it, but I was a little sad, but that's okay.
Why do you think that the bridal industry has failed to keep pace with the other garment industries in terms of sizing?
It could be because they're just wanting to be more consistent, but also, I kind of have a bone to pick with the whole vanity sizing thing. It really, I know it's frustrating to a lot of people, especially, like, we talk about jean sizing the most. Like, you can go buy a size, like, 8 and then a size 14, and you're just like, what? But I think it could just be they're trying to be more consistent, or it could just be they just don't want to stray from what was once a standard size.
Right.
So would you recommend more than that the overall industry focus on standardizing accuracy and like normalizing the actual
Yeah, I think
measurements associated with various sizes versus creating an illusion that also adds pressure.
Yeah.
Adds a lot of pressure.
I think the standardized sizing would be better. I actually have talked to Ms. Huber about this before. She can kind of see both sides, and like I kind of can, but also I just think vanity sizing causes more problems than it solves. So I would strongly advocate for a standardized sizing.
Do you think that like other countries who like stick to like a very, because isn't the United States one of the only places who doesn't stick to like the same sizing? Like, yeah. Do you think that other countries don't have as much of an issue with this topic because of the like consistent sizing?
So that's definitely what I was thinking, especially like in Europe. I don't know what Australian sizing is like, but the study done by, where is it? Pritchard and, I don't know how to say the last name, I don't want to butcher it, but their study was it was on Australian brides, and they just recreated the Neighbors and Sobel study, and they found that Australian brides wanted to lose more weight than American brides. So I don't know, I think it kind of depends on each country and what their standards are. I don't know much about the Australian apparel industry, but I know in Europe it's more standardized, so my hypothesis would be that it would be more consistent. Yeah.
Are you gonna include like a demographics portion to like see if different religions or something like have a different way in like different hetero relationships versus lesbian relationships, if that affects them at all?
Yeah, I would love to. I am doing it completely like voluntary, and so I'm gonna have kind of a second option where they can put in their demographics if they want to, but more than anything, I want them to feel comfortable submitting stuff, knowing that like it can't come back to them, because a lot of times when it's something like admitting that, oh yeah, like I developed an issue with food, or I developed some sort of self-esteem issue, a lot of times you don't want to admit that. So it's going to be completely voluntary, but if I do get enough responses, I would love to put that in there too.
So in the survey, are you just going to be seeing like how sizing affects, or are you looking at media and culture and like all those different things? Like what are the themes to kind of?
Primarily, it'll be sizing, but I did bring in the media just because there was like almost no research on bridal sizing.
Right.
So I brought in kind of how media affects it too, and I'm going to incorporate that into like the survey, like a couple questions saying, you know, did you feel pressure from the magazines, or did you feel pressure from social media, or anything like that too?
Because of like, I think you have a really cool job to like work there and do this. Like, what do you want to do once you like find your results, synthesize that? Like, are you going to like, how do you want to take that information and run with it, basically?
I honestly haven't quite thought about that, but so these are both things that I'm passionate about. I'm a recovered anorexic, so I'm really passionate about just eating disorder education and stuff like that. So I definitely want to incorporate that in here if I find that this does become a problem for some people. And then I'm just really passionate about fashion in general. I mean, it's my major. So if I could if I could find some way to take both those things and kind of move forward and push that forward and make like maybe a career out of it, I would love to.
That's so cool. Thanks for sharing. Awesome.
Thank you so much.